Okay, for review, the Shadow Systems MR920. MR stands for Multi-Roll 920. Maybe we can get this to focus. There we go. Weapon is clear. So overall, this is probably one of my favorite firearms that I own. This is my competition rig for carry optics. It's probably one of the flattest shooting weapons. I've had zero problems when it comes to reliability, accuracy, it holding zero, anything like that. And we'll kind of get into the optic mounting system, which is really what sets us apart because it does have a patent pending mounting system. This right here is the Elite Edition. It comes with a black frame, slide cut obviously with lightning cuts, directional serrations on the top. This particular one has a spiral threaded barrel. It's like a tie knife finish on it. Stainless steel guide rod, green tritium front sights, and they are suppressor height sights that co-witness perfectly with an optic. This is a Holosun 407C2 MOA dot. So we'll start from the bottom up and really get into the specs and talk about the gun itself, its shootability, obviously the concealability of it. It's a Glock 19, so that's really not an issue to conceal it, but we'll go bottom to top. So overall, looking at the frame, you can tell it has some stippling. There are no finger grooves on it, as well as it has a double undercut trigger guard, accelerator cuts right here on both sides. This is fantastic for people that shoot competition or if you're really working on build drills to shoot fast. And especially for me, in my opinion, if you have an optic on it, when you press out, if you index on those accelerator cuts, you don't have to go fishing for that optic like a lot of people do. It's right where you want it to be. So that for me is a huge plus. Also, this beaver tail really gets your hand sitting high in the frame, giving you a lower bore axis, and this thing shoots flat, just as flat, if not flatter than my CZ Shadow, but I mean, that's apples and oranges at this point. This one's, you know, a plastic fantastic. When you have a CZ, that's more of a, it's a brick, and it's also roughly a $1,500 to $2,000 brick. Speaking of which, this thing is Gucci out of the box, where if we really broke it down to how many modifications you would have to make to a standard Glock versus buying this for full retail, you'll still come out ahead of the game on this. Not to mention the fact that Shadow Systems customer service is fantastic, and you also have just great people that really believe in shooting sports, people that carry, they're great people all around. So, moving on, right here you could see the Magwell. It's slightly beveled. And you'll notice this little lanyard loop here, and I'll get to what that is. So when it comes to the grip frame, they have their MPOA, natural point of aim system. This very much mimics a Glock 19, which I carry, I'm used to, and it's great. But it also comes with one of these little tools here, which, when we place this guy over here, and I'll just show you, this is how easy it is to change the Magwell, which is wonderful for somebody like me that shoots USPSA or IDPA. So you just line this up. Obviously, you can put this over the front. Let me use two hands here. It's kind of a disaster. So a pin would go in there, obviously, and that turns this into an awesome Magwell. It's pretty discreet compared to more competition Magwells, but if I was carrying this, I personally wouldn't opt for that. It does print a little bit, but it opens up a nice funnel for you to feed a magazine in. And then you would just basically take this roll pin and put it right through there. And then to take it off, you punch the pin out, like that. But it comes with two other back straps, and this is very much like the Gen 4 19s, or rather just Gen 4 Glocks. So you have a large in a small. So you can kind of see the difference here with these. This one's going to mimic more of a Glock 17 or a Meteor Glock 19, maybe a Gen 2, Gen 3 Glock 19. This one is going to mimic a 1911. So this panel, just for illustrative purposes, this comes off with just moving one pin. And then if you wanted to change the grip angle, you can see it thins it out a lot and gives it more of a 1911. As you could see, I'm fishing for it. I personally don't opt for that. But out of the gate, you kind of get that option. This is much meatier for people with larger hands. You can see, and again, this just slides right off. You throw these on here, put your pin in. You could use a tool, you could just press it in, and it's ready to rock. So that's one outstanding modification, a really innovative thing that Shadow Systems has done, and it doesn't stop there. So then moving up, you could see the textured magazine release here. Again, wonderful beaver tail. It's almost impossible to get slide bite. I mean, you actually have to try to get slide bite on this weapon. Double undercut trigger guard, as I referenced. There's texturing on the front here. I'm one of those people that likes to put my finger there just to control the recoil. I do that with a lot of CZs. With this, I'm more so just indexed that way. Directional serrations, lightning cut. Also on the top here, you could just rack it off a table, as you can imagine. Threaded barrel. And then this little piece of material here, they added to stop the inadvertent adding or inadvertent ignition or manipulation of the slide lock. And right here, they took off a lot of material from the back of the slide. And after speaking with Trevor, their CEO, he said that was due to people complaining that the slide was digging into their love handles. I personally would say, hey man, you got to lose some weight. But the people at Shadow Systems listen to their customers, and that's absolutely wonderful to hear. They thinned out the front profile, as you can see here. So you can see it's kind of scalloped, as well as taking off these corners. That helps with reholstering, which if you're carrying in the 3 to 4 o'clock position outside the waistband or inside the waistband, that's really cool, is you have to angle it in and you really don't have to worry about flagging yourself. I personally carry appendix, not this particular weapon because I usually shoot this in competition as reference, so this is in a comp tack outside the waistband. Now, this is something that they really kind of shook up the gun industry with. Rather than using plates like the MOS series does, or just having an RMR footprint where you can only mount a Holosun or an RMR, they have shims you could put in and then different screws that are the deepest and longest screws in the game. So not only can you mount a RMR, a Holosun, or anything that has that same RMR footprint, you can also mount a Leupold Deltapoint, Vortex Venom, and name any amount of red dot sights, and they will fit on this gun, which is great, where you just don't have to buy a $500 RMR. You can buy something that's a little more affordable, like a Vortex Venom that's like $200-300. Burst Fast Fire, things like that. So you can see they have their logos there, as well as there. And the trigger, I wrote an article for Recoil about this weapon, and at first the trigger I was not a fan of, but after about 5,000 rounds, it really broke in very, very nicely, and it's crisp. It has a positive reset, outstanding break, and so much so that we're actually gonna do a little trigger test here. So 4.2, 4.9. Didn't enter that last one. 4.9. Trying to get it on the same spot every time. 4.1. We'll do 5. 4.3. 4.6. So call it 4 pounds, 6 ounces on a trigger, and this is just a stock Shadow Systems flat face trigger. I didn't do anything else to it. I didn't change any components. They do a lot of stuff on social media. It's like Tactical Tuesdays, really talking about what you should and shouldn't do to a weapon. And this comes from the factory the way it is for a reason. Now, like I said, you have this awesome magwell that just clips right on. So for instance, for carry optics, for USPSA, magwells are illegal, and IDPA, they're legal. So that's really convenient that you don't have to bring an Allen key, you don't have to bring any other gear to ensure that your weapon is legal. So just breaking it down, breaks down like any Glock, comes apart. Here's just a look at the internals. There's really nothing to write home about here. There's your trigger bar, fire control group, and I barely cleaned this thing, as you can tell. Here's a captured stainless steel recoil spring, as well as, I'm not going to de-thread it, but barrel comes out, pretty standard. This thing is dirty, and I still haven't had any reliability issues. It's a great gun. And it goes back together as normal. Again, this is on here solid. They've used dead blow hammers at Shadow Systems to try and get it to break zero. I have 5,000 rounds for this. I haven't had to re-zero it once. It leaves quarter-sized groups at 15 yards. It's fantastic. I would trust... It has the trust your life reliability of a Glock. So you have this just to compare. And this is a Shadow Systems slide. They don't really make these anymore, but I love this thing. This has an RMR mounted on top, so you can see blackout sights. And this has directional serrations as well that are a little bit more aggressive. They're quite sharper than the MR920, but this was kind of a precursor to the workmanship we'd see. So just to compare kind of the beaver tail, you can see where this gives you a lot more material to lower the bore axis versus a standard Glock 19 Gen 4 frame. So yeah, this is their Shadow Systems Gen 4 their top end rather. And this out of the box is good to go. So now if we just kind of talk about the gun itself, this does have a 1 in 10 twist 416R barrel, I believe. What's cool is that it has traditional rifling, so you can fire lead cast bullets out of it. That's really good considering ammo is hard to come by now. So if you were looking to cast your own bullets, you could shoot them out of this weapon when any other Glock weapon you cannot cast bullets out of it due to polygonal rifling, sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's just an all-around great gun. It's crazy light. I mean, this thing, it seems almost comical how light it is. And I'll find the specs somewhere for exactly how much it weighs, but it weighs significantly less than a standard Glock. Even if you take into account the missing material, it's still a very, very light weapon. So, just that being said, it's got some Lci Extractor features on it, which is their proprietary geometry, and it's the kind of improves the longevity and extraction of a wide range of ammunition. At first glance, it doesn't look much different when you look at the extractor, but trust me, they really over-engineer things, and I don't mean that as a ding, I mean that as a plus. Comes in its own soft case, 2 Magpul magazines. I've only had one issue with a Magpul magazine ever, and it was because it was brand new, and it was just a failure to seat properly. Never happened again, so wanted to give you that caveat. But compared to an RMR, I like this just as much, if not more. However, if I was going to war, like this is one of my carry guns, I'd carry this because I know I can hammer nails with it. This has a proven track record. It's got the patented concave design. And this thing, again, this is held zero for probably more than 5,000 rounds. So you can hammer nails with this one. This, same reliability, it's pretty, it's sexy. I don't want to use it for anything except competition. Now, if we go by the numbers and talk about what it would take to do this type of thing to a stock Glock, let's run through it. So you get a stock Glock, COVID prices notwithstanding, let's call it $500. $500 is going to cost you $200 or $300 for a stipple job. So that brings us to $700 or $800. New trigger, so something like an Overwatch Precision or an Agency, that's $100, $130. So now we're at, say, $850. Just lowball it, $850. To get an RMR cut, that's another $250. So now we're definitely over $1,000. We're at about $1,100. Then once you add tritium night sights to it, that's another $100. So we're at $1,200, $1,300. Then you add a threaded barrel to it, that's another $150, $200. So we're close to $15 plus the slide cuts. Not to mention all the other bells and whistles that come with this, like magazine, the beaver tail, things like that, taking this material off. So that notwithstanding, if you just did the slide cut, you're about $1,700, $1,800 into it. And I believe the Elite goes for about $1,100 or $1,200. So this out of the box is already Gucci'd, already set up. They have the combat version, which doesn't have these top directional serrations, nor this window right here, or an optics cut. But other than that, pretty much everything is the same. It's good to go. Final thoughts on the MR920. Like I said, one of my favorite 9mm handguns, hands down. It's ready to go out of the box. It's over-engineered, it's reliable, it's super accurate. You get a lot of bang for your buck, no pun intended. And it's just a great heavy use weapon. As you could see, I have several thousand rounds to this thing and the finish looks fine. I must have unholstered this thing and reholstered it hundreds of times. And it just looks absolutely great. Just gonna do a little once over. And that is the MR920 by Shadow Systems. Comment any other weapons you'd like to see, any questions about it, I'm happy to answer them. And this is A Zone Reviews out.